Brahma Murari Tripurantakari Bhanushashi Bhumi Suto Burashta Guruscha Shukra Shani Rahu Ketava Kuruvantu Sarve Mama Suprabhatam Brahma Murari Tripurantakari Panushashi Bhumi Suto Burashcha Guruscha Shukra Shani Rahu Ketava Kuruvantu Sarve Mama Suprabhatam Brahma Murari Tripurantakari Panushashi Bhumi Suto Burashcha Guruscha Shukra Shani Rahu Ketava Kuruvantu Sarve Mama Suprabhatam. La 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 ah la 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 ah Hi, good day all. Welcome to another session of natural law, teaching of natural law, along with several other integral concepts in understanding the occult and different aspects of religion and so on, and spirituality, right? Because as you all know, religion is one of the things that has been tearing this world apart for eternity now, right? The superficial aspects of religion, that is, right? So today I want to focus on the occult, a reintroduction to the occult, as well as the difference between exoteric and esoteric aspects of religion, right? So the focus is on reintroducing the occult, and that's why I started with this particular chant. This particular chant is basically is what I will use to reintroduce the occult, right? The occult, basically what it is, the word itself means that which is hidden, or that which is concealed, or that which is buried under the surface, that which we do not usually pay attention to in our everyday life experience, because we just go about our lives in this worldly experience without paying attention to that which is operating behind the scenes, right? So the word occult simply means that which is hidden, right? So this chant that I open with, it has to do with acknowledging the planets and the celestial bodies, right? Acknowledging the influence of the planets and the celestial bodies, right? So it acknowledges the sun, the Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, all the different planets that influence us in particular ways. Now, those of you who know me know that since I was very young, I've been a major proponent of free will, right? Free will meaning that we take charge of our own life choices. We choose, right? So even though I've made a lot of mistakes in my life and stuff, I acknowledge that, hey, all of my mistakes were actually choices. You know, I made certain choices in my life, and take responsibility for our choices, as we all should be doing, right? Taking responsibility for our choices, right? But choice, there's a part of our life apart from free will, right? There's an aspect of our lives that we are unable to control part of our lives, right? And I would go as far as to saying to make that part of your life a bigger part, the part that you could actually control, right? So that you have a sense of clearer direction as to what you want to achieve, and so on, and you work actively, take action towards that. But then there's a separate part of our life that is beyond our control, right? And this is what is sometimes difficult for me and you, right, us all, to sometimes accept that, hey, whilst we can take action, we can take control of our lives, and to whatever degree we believe that we could or we want to, right? But there's always an aspect of our lives, there's always this aspect of our life, right, where, hey, we don't know, because there's only so we could take action, but the outcome of that action, right, is up to the universe, and is up to our past, right? The outcome of what actions we have taken in the past, right? So our lives is continuously being shaped by these forces, right? Because let us look at the occult as the hidden influences in our life. For example, when we were born on a particular date, at a particular time, a particular day, right? And on that particular moment of birth, the planets would have been aligned in a particular way, right? The planets would have been set up in a particular way at birth, right? And that's why we have things like examples of the occult is something like astrology, right? Astrology, those that could give insight. For example, when we were born, and that's why if you are Hindu, you will know about reading your patra, and all the Bible is also astrological, you know. Islam is astrological as well, and the symbol of Islam is a moon and star, right? So there's a particular aspect of our life that was already predetermined at birth, right? I wouldn't say predetermined, but already directed. Like there's a particular direction set up in our lives from the time we are born, right? And as we navigate our journey in life and we take different courses of action, that is what could influence the change, right? So for example, if based on my patra, right, somebody read my astrological chart was read, right, based on my birth and how the planets were set up, and it says that, hey, something bad, or I'm going to have some health issue in 2022, right, or I'm going to have some skin condition in 2022, or I'm going to die in 2022, right? If that is the case, and I look into this, right, and I see, hey, this is the case, right, there are particular courses of action I could take, and this is how understanding the hidden influences on our life could actually help us to change the course of our lives, right? Or change the direction of our lives. So if you know or look into these things, right, you can take actions, not to stop it necessarily, but to slightly change the course, right, and to have your life work out in a slightly more positive way, right? That being said, I have not done that for my life, right? I did not do that because I have always been for free will for most of the part. So I will use my life and explain this in a more concrete way so that people understand what I mean, right? In 2019, my boyfriend and I would have bought a house via a mortgage, taken a loan via the bank, right, to purchase a home. Now, this is something we did on our own. We didn't tell anybody anything about it or anything. We went through this procedure on our own, right? There's a patra or Eastern astrological book that an annual book that my father, he usually purchases every year, right? And when I had looked at this book, and for the month that we purchased the house, right? I looked at the year and the month, right? And for my astrological sign. Now, something to point out about your sign. Your sign, you have both a sun sign when you were born. You were born under a sun sign and a moon sign, right? So when I looked at analyzed my what the patra or the reading said for the year that we bought that house, right? It literally told me, it said now is not a good time to purchase a home, right? This is not a good time this was 2019, end of 2019. That is when COVID had now started up too, but this book would have been written even before, right? So for my astrological sign, it told me now is not the time. It didn't even say it's not a good time to make investments. It didn't say it went extremely specific. It was like, this is not the appropriate time to purchase a new home, right? And I read it, and because, well, I am stubborn, right? As most of the people who pass through my life are equally so, right? So I read it and I just chuckled, because it's like I tell myself, hey, I am not going to let a book or whatever just influence a decision I want to make. I want to purchase this home, right? And I'm not going to let, hey, a book tell me that, hey, I can't exercise my free will in purchasing a home, right? So we went ahead, purchased the home and so on. And so that was ended up at 2019. Come 2020, right? Well, COVID hit. I ended up coming across knowledge on my own search during this whole COVID experience, when we were all, well, whoever were interested, we were all on this journey for truth, right? We were all on this journey or the search for truth, right? So come 2020 now, I came across this body of knowledge, right? And it, which basically said that, hey, well, being in a mortgage is essentially wrong, because it is basically the ownership by banks, right? Banks are essentially some of the biggest robbers, thieves, right? Just like government is, right? So it was a whole body of knowledge I came across that kind of hit me in my face. It was like a slap in my face, because I've now purchased my home, right? I just purchased my home and was told, hey, now is not a good time to purchase the home by the occult, right? Which is the hidden influences in our lives. And I looked into that and saw, hey, this is not a good time this is not the appropriate time for you to purchase a home, but I still went ahead and do it, right? And now a few months later, 1 year later, I've come across knowledge saying, hey, well, this is actually immoral, it's wrong, right? And not only is being in a mortgage wrong, but your job is wrong as well, right? Serving in the government and so on, right? So that was something huge to contend with, right? Mentally and emotionally, right? And the thing is, the job being in the government, right, was something that I wanted to come out of anyhow, right? I wanted to come out of there anyhow. So it became a whole journey of, hey, now how can I getting out of the government, and then subsequently the journey became trying to get out of the mortgage, right? So it was like a double slap. It was like a double slap in my face, because these things could have been prevented, right? These things getting tied up, and these things could have been prevented. If I had paid attention to, hey, this was based on my astrological sign, through looking into this material, right, I could have prevented certain things, prevented having to waste certain amounts of resources, right, on doing certain things that I now have to, that now has to be reversed in a sense, right? So paying the amount of money, because when you purchase a house with a mortgage, there's a down payment, one, right? Then there's the monthly installment, then whatever interest and so on, charges and all that, right? So this is to help people who might be thinking along these lines and wanting to also release themselves from the clutches of the system, right? Because that is what it essentially means to be free, right? To release yourself from the clutches of the system, and to detach yourselves from organizations which cause harm, which perpetuate the cycle of karma and cause of negative karma and cause harm, right? And that is the whole purpose of this whole journey for me, right? Detaching myself from the clutches of karma, negative karma, by detaching myself from organizations that perpetuate harm to self and to society, right? So what are the occulted forces that are responsible for that which is beyond our control, right? What are the hidden forces that are responsible for that which is beyond, and how can the understanding of the occult help us to make better decisions in our lives, right? So the occult is not only astrology and stuff, is about understanding the law of karma. That is the occult, right? Understanding the law of cause and effect, right? To every action there's a reaction, right? So I didn't pay attention, one, but it came back to bite me, to the astrological message that I had received prior to purchasing the home. I went ahead and did my own thing. Now I have to face the consequences of doing that, right? I have to face the consequences of doing that as well, because I was being told, hey, so, right? So this is tying in also the law of cause and effect, action and consequence, right? Because sometimes the answer is directly in front of our faces, right? Sometimes the answer, that which we seek, right? Sometimes that which we seek stands directly staring us in our face, right? And we ignore it, right? And this is what, and this is why we face consequences, right? We must face consequences in order to see, hey, this is a reality that has been in front of you for the longest while, right? If you pay attention to it, you won't have to go through these series of pain or negative experiences or losses, right? You would not have to go through the series of pain, negative experiences and losses, right? The truth is simple, and the truth is sometimes right in front of us, right? So, and that's why I always say, if people go all over searching for God, right? People go all over searching for God, looking for God in all places of pilgrimage and so on, right? But 3/4 of the most religious people out there, right? 3/4 of the most religious people out there would not know if Jesus Christ himself had descended on earth and sitting right next to them, right? 99% of the religious people on earth would not even know if Jesus Christ descended on earth and was seated right next to them or having a conversation with them, right? So as we mentioned, religion and so on, right? Let me just clear this up, because I know based on my previous video, people might be confused or either thinking I am confused. I know throughout my life there have been people who've been thinking that I live in a state of confusion, which I probably did in certain areas of my life, which we all have been there, right? So people would be thinking that would have been thinking I'm confused, because one minute I say, hey, I don't want nothing to do with religion, right? Religion is the cause of all wars. Religion is the cause of all disaster and destruction, right? And I don't want nothing to do with religion. And next minute, hey, I chanting and singing, or next minute, I'm saying, hey, look into Hinduism because there are answers there that stood the test of time, right? There are principles embedded in there that are eternal principles, right? Which there are actually present in each religion, right? Religion, as I always say, is a route. It's not the be all end all. It is a road, right? It is a road to travel to truth, right? It is not the be all and end all. It is not. It should not be your main. It is not the destination, right? It is not the destination, right? So this brings me to discussing and why I sometimes chant, why I turn to religion for certain aspects, and then certain times I withdraw myself from the concept of religion or even the thought of it. I don't want to have anything to do with it, right? And this is why I'm going to explain why. It is basically because of understanding the difference between the exoteric aspect of religion and the esoteric aspects of religion, right? What is the exoteric aspect of religion? EXOTERIC. Exoteric meaning external, right? External to self, right? The exoteric aspects to religion, things like the fact that you go to temple once a week, right? The fact that you go to temple once a week, the fact that you wear shalwar or you wear a skirt and top to go to church, right, once a week. The clothing you wear to go, right, the place of worship. Exoteric. You have a murti, a deity, a idol, right? I have a deity of Mother Lakshmi in my vehicle and a Om symbol, right? These are exoteric aspects of religion, right? It's external, it's physical, you could touch it, you could feel it, you could experience it with your senses, right? If you have a statue of Mary or Jesus Christ on the cross or a moon and star, right? Or even the religious scriptures, right? All these things are exoteric aspects of religion, right? Exoteric, the things that you could actually feel and experience with your senses, right? How much times a month you go to church? Now this can be contrasted with esoteric, right? Esoteric meaning inner, meaning occulted, meaning deeper, under the surface, right? So what your pastor is not telling you, what your priest, what your pundit, imam, right? What they are not saying to you, right? These things are the esoteric aspects which you are being encouraged to look into beyond that which is presented to you by exoteric religion, right? So the point of this entire video series is to awaken the aspect of you, right, and myself that is willing to probe beyond that which is presented to us on the surface, right? To probe a little bit deeper into our own ways of life, right? There's a saying that goes, educate yourself about your own background or your own way of life, right? Educate yourself about your own way of life so that somebody else from another culture or from another religion wouldn't have to come and teach you about your own way of life, right? Educate yourself about your own way of life so that somebody else from another religion or another culture will not have to come to tell you about that which you think you know, right? About your own religion or culture, however. And this is why I was talking about, like, even in Christianity and Islam and stuff, right? And incorporating this whole concept of vegetarianism and non-violence, because the whole point of religion and the whole people and the whole point of this thing on the whole was supposed to be to make us into more compassionate individuals, to help us to at the end of it all, at the basis of it all, at the root of it all, it's supposed to shape us into more non-violent individuals, right? So this is why I'm saying that this principle should be and it is at the basis of every religion, right? The principle of non-violence, which a big part of which is not eating meat and so on, right? Because in my mind, and this is just a conversation we have in here, right? This is not to condemn anybody's religion, because I know that's the first thing people is be quick to say about me. I mean, it's been happening to me since I go in Astra, right? Since I was in secondary school. I mean, I had like girlfriends and stuff who made those statements that I condemn people's religion and so on. But it's just one of the things that I had to deal with on my own, because I've been on this solo journey by myself with nobody really to kind of understand the ins and the outs of this entire experience, and navigating this, and which I'm sure many of you have been navigating on your own as well for different aspects of your life, right? But religion is one of the most touchy topics. Nobody like to talk about it, because everybody be like, hey, just respect everybody religion. Just respect everybody religion. How can I respect a religion which basically claims to be the religion of compassion and mercy and peace, right? It's difficult for me. That does not sit well with me, right? Say, how can I respect a religion which claims to be the religion of mercy, compassion, and peace, and then you have a whole day which is the most significant day, the most significant festival for you is a mass ritual slaughter of animals worldwide, international, in the name of God, right? That doesn't sit well with me. And me coming here and discussing that or talking about that, right? Me coming and expressing how I feel about that should not be offensive to you. And if it is offensive to you, you all need to reevaluate what you are believing in, right? Or just don't watch my videos, right? But me coming and discussing this out loud or wanting to understand why this is so, right, should not come across as an offense, because I am not talking from the position of, hey, throwing stones or hating on anybody's religion. I mean, I appreciate our differences more than anything else, right? If anybody know me, know that I actually appreciate our differences more than anything else. But differences in perception and so on is different. It's different from differences in principle, right? Differences as in how we choose to apply natural law, for example, is different from saying, hey, differences differences in how we choose to apply natural law, right? For example, I could apply natural law through the religion of Hinduism because that feels most comfortable to me, right? But the point is that, so I do participate in no external trappings in this religion, right? But I know that non-violence is the core principle and it aligns with the eternal principle of the universe, right? Which is to do no harm, take no shit, basically, do no harm to any living creatures, or do as least harm as possible to living creatures, right? So now I would have had to learn the hard way with this with regard to, say, being in relationships, hurting others and having others hurt me in return, right? We would have both had to learn from that, as in, because non-violence is not simply, like I was saying, picking up a gun. Violence is not just picking up a gun and shooting somebody. There are different types of violence. We can be violent with our words. We can be violent in our relationships, personal relationships. We could be violent by being dishonest. We could be violent by working for organizations that are violent in nature, such as the police force, the police service, right? Who we can be violent in a shirt and tie manner, right? Which is how the most amount of violence actually takes place in the world right now, right? Which is what we're trying to dismantle, that shirt and tie violence. The violence that people think, hey, I am in this job and this job is so respectable, and oh, this is a status thing, and oh, this is whatever. But when your job behind the scenes is actually responsible for taking away livelihoods of others, your job is responsible for giving people COVID shots and causing neurological diseases, illnesses in others, right? This is the nature of your job. That is violence, right? That is violence. The violence is not just taking a gun or a knife and shooting or stabbing people, right? So as I was saying, I could choose to apply natural law through the religion. Well, in Hinduism they say it's not a religion, it's a way of life, right? Through the way of life, and they say this with every damn religion under the sun. Islam is not a religion, it's a way of life. Christianity is not this, is following the path of Christ, right? Well, the path of Christ and the path of all these prophets were in fact the path of non-violence, unless it's in self-defense, right? The paths of all these prophets and ways of life is the path of non-violence, right? So I could choose to follow natural law, spiritual law, if I'm more comfortable doing it in Hinduism. You can choose to follow natural law through Islam if that is more comfortable for you. You could choose to do it via Christianity if that is most comfortable for you. Once as you are actually applying the principles is what matters, right? So when I say I appreciate differences between us, I don't mean I appreciate differences in principle, right? Principles should stand and should be the one common thing amongst us all, right? Principle should be the one common thing amongst us all, because principle is that which exists eternally. It stands. It is formulated based on truth, right? It is eternal. It is a principle, right? It is a basis upon which we act, right? So that should remain consistent, and our differences otherwise, so what? Celebrate it, right? So when I talk about me being me not wanting to, at certain times you all would hear me say I don't want to have anything to do with religion and whatever, right? It is the exoteric aspect of religion that I actually refer to when I say this, right? Because if you look and probe into the esoteric of every way of life, right, you would find the common theme, the common basis, which is natural law, which is spiritual law. And in bringing ourselves in alignment with spiritual law, right, bringing ourselves in alignment with spiritual law, that is, you will realize that you will be awakened to a bit more of life's answers, the essence of life itself, right? And you will come close, very, very close to an understanding of that which is, right? That which is, and the present moment, and to live really in the present moment, which is what we should all be striving to do, because living in the past causes what? Depression. Living in the future makes us anxious, right? So focusing and bringing yourself into alignment, one, and then teaching this is why I always say, and I'll always say, that this is the most appropriate and accurate, and is also the most difficult, but it is the best way in which you could heal yourself. Alignment and teaching of spiritual law, right? All of that incorporates the healing journey. The application of and the teaching of spiritual law is one's healing journey, right? Or it is the best mechanism you can use to heal yourself.